Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of the Panel by Panel podcast. My name is Kyle, and the basic idea of this podcast, if you're new around here, is that every single episode we take a well-known comic book storyline and I do my best to explain it to my friend Aaron, who is a comic book newcomer who isn't too familiar with these stories. If you haven't checked out the previous episode, please go and do that. We talk a little bit more about it's the first 5 episodes, the foundations of what we're building everything on, and kind of the basis of Aaron's comic book knowledge. This episode is about Superman Red Son by Mark Millar, and it is our first Superman story, which, as I go on to explain at the start of the podcast, Aaron is not a Superman fan by any means. So I thought we would go for a really fun one just to kind of break that Superman ice, if you will, and get us into the swing of things before we dive into some like real serious Superman stuff that's a little bit less chaotic, I suppose would be the right word. Thank you for checking us out. Please go and follow us all across our social medias. This podcast is available on YouTube and Spotify, so go check it out on either platform, whatever works best for you. And you know, the usual stuff: subscribe, like I said, follow us on social medias, rate it on Spotify, all of that good stuff you already know. So without further ado, this is Superman Red Son. I got no funny Anastasia stories that have come up in the week. I found this website, random question generator.
This is going to be our thing.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Give it a go.
I mean, we might have to go through a couple because some of them might just be awful, but we'll see.
We'll do like 5 at the start and then we'll see how that goes, or maybe 3.
Yeah, these are really boring so far. Oh, who was your favourite teacher and why? Do you have a favourite teacher? I'm going to have to think. Because if we go Churchdown, then we might both have the same one.
Well, who else is my favourite teacher?
What do you mean?
I was junior school, I just beat kids up.
Well, I thought, like, if it's primary school, you're not even going to know who I'm on about, so yeah, we should probably just pick secondary, that'd be better.
Secondary school got me Griffo.
Yeah, that's...
Big Mr. Griffin.
Oh, wait, no, I got the people confused in my head. I was going for someone else.
Mr. Griffin, he had a crossbow, he had a picture of his daughter in the swastika.
Yeah, he really did love to talk about those Nazis.
as soon as he walked into any room, you immediately felt shit in your pants.
I liked Mr. Griffin, but okay, this is why this website is the way forward, because this leads to a funny anecdote. We had this cat at the same time as Ray and Tigger, but he was a lot older. We had Donatello, and when he got old, like, he's just an old cat, so he would just do stuff, and you'd be like, bruh. So he would just be sick a lot, and you'd be like, he's just an old cat. I don't know what you want me to do. But he was sick on the kitchen counter, and it was on my homework. And I was like, oh, that sucks. I was really bad for handing in homework as well.
The cat puked on your homework. You really thought that.
I was really bad for handing in homework as well. So I was like, oh man, no way. Am I going to have to use that as an excuse? And of course, the one teacher you wouldn't want that to be, Mr. Griffin's homework. So, I mean, I think he saw the funny side in it, because I got my mum to write a note, because I was like, he ain't going to believe this. So I was like I said to him, oh, I haven't got my homework. And he was like, oh, why's that? And I was like, no, you ain't gonna make me say it. I was like, no, I got this. I got this, don't make me say it. And then he read it, and I think he just looked up and he was just like, go sit down. So I feel like he was like, all right, you've gone to the effort to write that out, and also you know how terrible my handwriting is, so there's no way I could fake someone's handwriting that looks good.
Yeah, you wrote like a child.
My mum's handwriting is fine. Mine looks like it was written by Shia LaBeouf in Transformers. Like, you're like, what is this language from Cybertron? So, yeah, that was a pretty bad one. No, I was going to say Mr. Horton, Jazz Hands.
Oh, Jazz Hands himself. Any room he walked into, those 2 big hands came out. Like SpongeBob with Glove World. What a great time.
The next question that generated was, what would you do if you had a free afternoon in the middle of the week? I don't know, maybe sit here and record a podcast.
Not much. I don't know.
Wow. that's a big topic that I feel like we've had. I feel like we've had this conversation with each other many times, but usually after more beers than just one. We're not going to have this debate right now, but this just opens up to show people the places we could go with this random question generator. What incredibly strong opinion do you have that is completely unimportant in the grand scheme of things? Wow.
Dwarves are scary. And also, my opinion on it is I'm not against them. I think they're pretty cool guys and gals, but it just takes me to the point where, remember, I don't know if you were there. I don't think you were, where we saw. I don't know what you call a group of small people, or midgets, or dwarves, or I don't know what you call them either. But there was like, and it wasn't a school trip, by the way. They were definitely midgets, right?
That's so hard.
So they were definitely dwarves. But seeing so many of them in one place, that's freaky, man. It's like spiders. See a bunch of spiders in one place.
That's the other thing that creeps you out. There's got to be some kind of link
between spiders and dwarves.
I think I'm not saying that everyone has this link. I'm just saying for you.
Both small and hairy. I don't know what else to say. What's yours anyway?
I don't know.
You don't have any strong opinions, I don't think.
No.
You know what's your strong opinion? You kind of just go, eh.
And I feel like all of the strong opinions I have are things that don't matter in the grand scheme of things.
You have a strong opinion against Nazis, for example.
That's true.
Again, boring.
Yeah. That's quite important in the grand scheme of things, I feel.
Is it important?
Well, I guess not, because it's such a shared opinion.
Don't get me wrong, it would be important if it was the other way around, and you had a strong opinion for Nazis.
Yeah.
And then I don't know where that goes.
It's like that. It's not really relevant. That was back in the old days. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we'll do 2 like proper ones per episode.
Yeah.
Also, I'm seeing some duplicates, so I don't know how. I don't know how many questions there are.
Maybe there aren't many.
It's got a funny little duck on it, though.
It's a funny little fella, isn't he? Look at
Yeah.
him.
He's pretty happy. That website is.
God, get him out, innit?
That website is absolutely terrible, though. But hey, it does the job.
It's just a duck.
Yeah, that's true. I gave you like nothing to go off of the clue. I gave you one of those clues where if you're a comic book fan, you might have got it. If you don't know the comic book, you ain't got a chance.
No, so basically you told me the word comrade. Like
Yeah.
Like the Russians said. And
Yeah.
it was only today where I guessed, and I knew it was wrong, but Colossus. And then we both had a chat about how useless Colossus is in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
The only thing that can beat him is a magnet man. Magneto. Crazy.
Yeah.
So I got that wrong. But what are we doing?
I suppose I could have done the whole name thing because it's a really simple title. I could have been like, "What's the opposite of this?" But then, what would you say the opposite of red is?
Blue.
That would be my go-to answer. But
Like red versus blue.
yeah, I probably could have hit you with that.
Blue.
Daughter.
Blue sun.
No. This is the opposite of blue.
Red sun.
Yeah. Red sun.
Oh, right. I was really confused. Oh, wow, Superman.
So we're doing the first
He's a
Superman
comic.
book. So can you do, like, for people that don't know this artwork, what is on the artwork?
So, I mean, they got Superman Red Sun at the top in pretty cool writing, I will admit. But then the artwork it's Superman stood on his, I guess it's a sigil, right? And instead of it being a big S, it's big hammer and sickle. So he stood on that and he's got hammer and sickle instead. Why is he communist?
Right, so, before we get into this, we should clarify, although I feel like we've hinted at it in multiple episodes, you don't like Superman.
Oh no, he's so boring.
Yeah. So I thought, if we're going to do a first Superman book, let's do something really different. Like, weird. So, as it says at the top right, this is an Elseworld story, which is basically DC What If. Right. Written by Mark Miller, who did Old Man Logan.
Yeah.
He's done Kick-Ass, Civil War. tons of good stuff. I didn't realize how much I loved this until I reread it. I mean, I literally reread it earlier because I realized I forgot to make notes the last time I read it. So
The only question I have for you on this one, so obviously Superman's normal weakness is rocks, kryptonite. Is his weakness in this capitalism? And if so, how does he counter capitalism?
I never really thought of it that way. I don't know. I guess it is in a way.
Isn't Superman always for the people, or is he always for Superman?
Well, that's where it gets a little. I mean, like, I like this book because it's really silly, like it's really fun, but like there are some good like themes to do with Superman, as like you said, like what isn't he always for the people and stuff like that. So like it like takes that and then uses the communist thing to be like, yeah, he's trying to do it for the people, and then that kind of gets twisted and stuff.
As long as he doesn't take anyone to gulags.
No gulags.
Alright, that's good, that's positive.
There is some other weird stuff.
Okay.
No kryptonite though, in the whole book.
Oh, so he's alright. At least Superman's alright.
There you go, he's alright.
Is Lex Luthor a capitalist? Is he in this?
Well, yeah, Lex Luthor's like the second main character in the book.
He's like the Monopoly man.
Yeah.
Proper capitalist.
Oh, well, he has hair in the book, at least until like towards the end of the story. I don't know if you know this, but Lex Luthor doesn't have hair because of Superman.
What did he do to him?
I'm sure there was some sort of.
Blew his hair off.
His super breath. I'm sure he does have like super breath, by the way. I'm sure there's like some sort of thing. Some sort of thing where he tries to save him from something and it messes up, and because of that he loses all of his hair because of like chemicals or something, which is one of I think originally when they first debuted Lex Luthor, that was his sole reason for hating Superman, is that he had lost his hair, which to be fair seems kind of dumb. However, if I was permanently bald and it was your fault, I would be fuming. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't spend my whole life's work trying to kill you, but...
If I was like a super person,
yeah,
you'd literally find the one rock that can defeat me. You'd be that salty that I made you bald. Knowing you kind of go, oh, that's really annoying, and then just live the rest of your life.
Well, guess I'm wearing hats all day. Yeah, probably. So there's just some cool artwork and stuff. The artwork, by the way, as you can tell, it's very Russian themed. The Russian artwork, I think, is all really cool. Like the change up of color schemes and stuff is cool. So the way I'm going to describe it isn't exactly how the comic book starts, but like they kind of introduce you to things as the book gets going, but it'll get confusing, me constantly being like retconning stuff in that's already happened. So in this story, the whole basis of the idea, you know how like Mark Miller took Old Man Logan and was like, what if there was this apocalypse thing and Logan was like the last guy left kind of thing, and he didn't want to be Wolverine anymore. The basic idea is that when Superman is a baby and he leaves Krypton on the spaceship and it goes to Earth, the very simple idea is that the little spaceship rocket lands 12 hours earlier. So, because of the Earth orbiting, it lands in Ukraine in 1938 instead of in Kansas.
Ah, right.
So, it's like the same kind of setup which you don't actually get any of this, which is again one of the things I like. It's kind of the same with Old Man Logan, where it drops you right in and is just like, don't worry about the apocalypse stuff. Here's a really brief summary. Like, here we go. Like, it's like the same setup as Superman's actual origin. Like his family that he comes to are like really good people. They teach him human values. He doesn't get his powers until he's like a teenager. And when he does, and he starts saving people, it catches the eye of Stalin, who brings him in and basically like adopts him as his son with like, obviously he's like, he likes him, but he's like, you're really powerful. And so like, that's going to help us out in the long run. Like I said, I'm explaining to you this like out of order because the book just drops you right in and it's a little bit confusing. But like in the comic, we start with like, you know, when you picture Superman, like the age that he is, I don't know what age he's supposed to be.
He looks always like mid-20s.
But I suppose if he crashes in 1938, the book takes place in the Cold War. So Yeah, he's like...
60s, 70s, right?
Well,
Well, it was after Vietnam, so it's 70s, right?
Oh man, now you're making me think of Cold War history. The reason I haven't looked up any Cold War history is because this book does not care about history. It does not care about Russian society, Russian culture. It is like the most... That is kind of why I love it, because it's so silly. But when it comes to Russian culture, that's why I said comrade. Because most of the characters are just like Russian... It gets confusing. Some characters remain the same. Like Lois Lane is still Lois Lane, born in America, reporter for the Daily Planet, same character.
Is there a Russian Lois Lane?
No.
Lois Lavena, bitch.
You say that, but some of the characters are literally just Superman characters with like "of" and at the end of their name, and they just say "comrade" at the end of their sentences, and that's the only difference.
Oh yes, Soviet Russia, come on.
So, like I said, the comic starts in the heat of the Cold War. Superman at this point is basically Stalin's like right hand, like he just like, but he doesn't necessarily agree with everything, and he doesn't want to be involved. So Stalin, obviously, and all of the Russian like leaders want Superman to really be involved, and Stalin wants him to take over as his successor, because he's like, you're so powerful that you have the potential to take communism and like take over the world with it, kind of thing. But Superman doesn't care about politics. He's like, I literally just want to help people. I don't care if they're Russian, American, African, whatever. I just want to help. So that's all he's doing. So he's like Stalin's right-hand man, because he kind of sees Stalin as like a father figure and he's helping out. But in reality, he's not really... He doesn't really care.
Even though obviously it's changed around him, he's still kind of like the same.
He still has the same values, but obviously he's been brought up in communism, so he is a little bit... I suppose he's like a little... He's still kind of patriotic kind of thing. But he's not concerned about politics and stuff like that for the time being. Like I said, yeah, he's just a really good person still. Stalin wants him to take over. There's a character called Pyotr Roslov, who is again like just a really like stupid variation on a Superman character who's called Pete Ross. They changed him to Pyotr Roslov.
Of course.
And in Superman comics, he's like a teenager, like when Clark is, before he gets his like Superman powers develop, and they're kind of like, they're not like enemies, but they're kind of like rivals. Like they always go for the same girls. Kind of, it's like the whole like teenage kind of thing.
Smallville?
He probably was, because they did a lot of that kind of stuff.
I actually watched Smallville.
No wonder you hate Superman.
Smallville isn't terrible, but no, that wasn't the only reason I hate Superman. I watched the other Superman films. True.
So Pyotr is the chief of police, but he's also the bastard child of Stalin. So he should be next in line to take over. But obviously Stalin sees Superman as like his best son, kind of thing. So Pyotr just hates Superman, because obviously he's incredibly jealous that Stalin likes Superman more, but also because he hates Superman because of his ideals. He thinks that Superman saves people because he wants to be liked, and he also sees Superman as proof that all men aren't created equal, because he can't do the things that Superman can. And so he's like, you don't stand for communism at all. Which Superman's kind of like, no, I don't. I just want to help people. So they hate each other. So there's some Lex Luthor stuff, which we will skip through, because I'll come back to Lex Luthor when we're through. This is like, again, some Lex Luthor stuff that we'll come back to. You can, as long as you've seen the imagery, then that's the only really important thing. Because we'll get to... There's some stuff.
Wonder Woman's in this as well.
Yeah. So this is Pyotr and Superman having a chat, and he says about why he hates him and stuff. So before we get on to more like character stuff, the Cold War, to kind of set the scene with that stuff, is different because of Superman. So like obviously there's no nuclear threat between both sides, because Russia have Superman, and so like what good does having nukes for Russia have when they have Superman, who's more powerful, and what good is it the US having nukes, because Superman would just destroy them.
So it's more like Superman's the trigger.
It's kind of like Russia have the power because they have Superman, and the US are trying to catch up, and they're trying to think of ways that they can defeat Superman, basically, because he's kind of all that Russia have. But like I said, Russia are very much like in the driving seat. So like I said, some of the characters from Superman, like comics are just like reskinned Russian characters, and some are the same. Like, there's a little thing which you're just looking at now, where Piotr is thinking about how bad he feels when he's talking about Superman. When he's talking to him in this graveyard, he feels really bad because he shot 2 anti-Superman protesters, and they died right in front of their son. Shot them dead in an alley, and then you go through like 2 pages, and then the kid is surrounded by bats. But there's more to come from that later, because that gets, oh well, it's fun. Like I said, as we scroll past, Wonder Woman's also in the book. Stalin keeps trying to set the 2 of them up, because again, same kind of deal with Wonder Woman in like her actual origin. She's like emissary for the Amazonians. They send her to learn about humanity and kind of take lessons back, but also see what she can improve for them, kind of thing, to try and improve their relationship. And obviously, because Superman's in Russia, she goes to Russia instead, and like she just fancies Superman, and Stalin keeps trying to set them up. But again, Superman's like, I'm not bothered about any of this sort of stuff, like politics, whatever. I'm just trying to save people. I don't really care. So then Piotr tries to shoot himself whilst he's chatting to Superman, and Superman blocks it with his hand before the bullet hits his head, which obviously Piotr's fuming about. And he starts saying that he did a terrible thing this morning, and he goes, and I arranged, and then he doesn't get to finish speaking because Superman's like, there's a guy shouting for my help in Moscow, I have to go. So he flies away, and it's Stalin, who has been poisoned by cyanide. And Piotr like busts in and is like, I'm not going to rest until I've caught the man and had him publicly executed and stuff, which they never actually just straight up tell you whether it was Piotr, but obviously you would assume that is what he's going to say, because he's so jealous of Superman that he kind of starts to hate Stalin. So now we'll go back to all the Lex Luthor stuff. We'll go to the US. We don't spend a ton of time with the US stuff, but it's silly. So like I said, Lois Lane is the same character, but in this she's married to Lex Luthor.
Okay.
Who is like, he's Lex Luthor. He's just extremely smart.
Big
like
scientist
man. Probably the smartest man on the planet kind of levels. He's still like a really cocky douche. But like I said, he's not bold. That's like the only difference. So Lex basically becomes the US's nuclear deterrent to Superman. They're like, well, this guy's so smart, he'll come up with something that we can use to defeat Superman so that we can win the Cold War. And that's like his whole job, is just keep coming up with plans to defeat Superman. And Lex being so like obsessive when he has like a rival or something to work out. Him and Lois Lane have like a terrible marriage. There's like a point later on where he sends her a letter and it basically says like, I'm currently unable to be your husband, so you just live your life and I'll live mine, and then when I'm done, we'll go back to being husband and wife and stuff like that. Or like there's a point where she comes to visit him and he's like, yeah, on his birthday, because that's like the only time that she's allowed to visit him, and he's like, yeah, leave the present on the desk with my secretary and I'll get back to you, sort of thing. Like he just doesn't care. Like he's just obsessed. Because he's got to beat Superman, then he's like, then we can go back to being married or whatever. So his first plan, which you see a little bit of right at the start of the book, is that he hijacks Sputnik, the satellite, and it wants to crash it into Metropolis. And it's kind of like he just wants to see what Superman will do. I think he has the impression that Superman isn't communist and that he just like wants to help people. So he's like, if I launch this at us, Superman will come and save it, I think. So he wants to do that. But he also wants Superman's DNA, which obviously by Superman picking up the satellite, he'll get off of the satellite. But there's like a little bit where, because it crashes in Metropolis, it almost knocks something over onto Lois Lane, and Superman saves her, and then they both just kind of look at each other, and then Lois Lane like instantly falls in love with him, and Superman's like, that was weird, and then he flies away. But it's kind of like, again, it ties into the whole Cold War thing of like the impression that people would have got of Russians versus like what they're really like. Like Superman, they probably would have heard that Superman's like this like evil guy, and then he just like saves them and flies away, and that's it. And the Russians at this point are like really trying to pressure him into helping them spread communism, as you can imagine, but he's really not bothered about that. that's another part of Lex Luthor's plan that we'll get to. So, after saving Metropolis from the satellite, Superman goes back to Russia. He bumps into an old girlfriend of his that now has kids. And she's queuing in a line to get bread. She's really poor because she sold everything she had to go to Stalin's funeral. I think they mentioned that everyone had to attend, but you had to pay your own way. So she had to sell everything that she had to get to Moscow for the funeral.
Right.
But Superman's like outraged that she has to wait in this line for bread and she's got no money to feed her and her kids. So he cuts the line and he's like, get this woman some food. And then obviously everyone else in the line is like, I thought we were all equal. Like, what's that about? And he's like, okay, this is actually like a problem now. And he's like, okay, I'm going to help. I'll step up and take more of a role because I take more of a role. Breadline. That's funny. I didn't even plan that. Because he's like, it's not enough for me to just fly around the world like putting out fires. I need to stop them, kind of thing. Like, I need to actually prevent things instead of just react to them. So I already told you about Wonder Woman being the emissary and stuff like that, and she gets eventually. She just thinks that Superman's really hot. That's like her whole character in this book, and Superman convinces her to kind of join with him, basically like in the comics, the way he does with her and the US, how he convinces her to help. He does the same thing, but she helps with the Russians, obviously. And now, with Superman taking over, now that Stalin's dead, they start turning Russia around, like real fast. And obviously, because of that, people start seeing how well communism's doing for them. More countries stop getting converted. So Superman is doing a really good job of running things. And obviously, Superman being pretty like naive is like, well, they want to join because they're like, look at how hopeful it is over there, when, you know, obviously they're also like, we can't fight Russia. Like, they've gotten way too powerful. The US, on the other hand, is doing the opposite. It is financially spiraling out of control because of how much money they're spending to try and build something that can defeat Superman. Like, Lex is just going crazy with it. And basically what he does, which I love, is he creates Superman villains, like Superman villains from the comics that usually, you know, come from planets or whatever. He starts creating them to send at Superman, and they always fail. They always suck. He always crushes them. One of them, which he creates with the DNA, is Bizarro, who is he's like quite an important Superman villain, but he's basically just Frankenstein Superman. Like, as you can tell, he's just like a put together body. Again, they think that this is going to be the one. Superman absolutely destroys him pretty easily. And, yeah. Lex goes crazy, as you can see in that one, and kills his other scientists and goes rogue because he's like, I don't need you anymore. And that's kind of like the end of the first issue. It's 3 parts, Red Sun, not too long. The final thing that I think is really funny about that part is in Russia they have a Superman museum and they keep all of the beaten supervillains in it. I think that might be in the next issue. If you keep scrolling, and then it'll do this, and then that's the second one, and then click read there, and then it should just load. It can take a little while sometimes, the DC app. I love all like the classic like propaganda artwork and stuff that they do. So at the start of this issue, we've got Lex Luthor starting to lose his hair. And what he's talking about here is, do you know the DC Superman villain Brainiac?
I've heard of him, but I don't know enough of him now. So,
Brainiac is like an android who's insanely smart. Like, one of the smartest things in the universe. And his whole gimmick is he's got that big dumb skull looking head chip, and it can shrink cities into bottles.
Okay.
That's his whole thing, is he collects them and then he stores them on his ship. I think it's just like the quest for knowledge. He's just like, I want to own part of the civilization. So he comes to Earth, does his whole thing like he does in comics, where he's like, I'm going to turn your cities into bowls. And Lex somehow strikes a deal with him, probably just because both of them are smart. I don't know. That's why I love Brainiac, because he's meant to be like the smartest. That's his whole villain thing, is he's insanely smart, but sometimes he's really dumb, which makes no sense. So Lex is like, another one of his big plans involving a Superman villain is like, I'm going to get Brainiac to shrink Moscow whilst Superman is in it, and then it'll shrink Superman. Brainiac, not knowing much about humans because he's just got there, doesn't know the difference between any cities, and he accidentally shrinks Stalingrad.
I mean, that's a fair mistake, though, you know?
So that bottled city is Stalingrad. Everyone in Stalingrad is still alive. They've just been shrunk massively and put in a container. Because Brainiac's silly, and he's like Lex has a go at him, and he's like, I don't know what you guys look like. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I love Brainiac. He's so stupid. And then Superman beats him, and then that's the museum with all the like stupid villains in it.
It's like the Scooby-Doo museum.
Yeah, it is, right? So the next bit is to do with Batman. Oh, that's the super dog, right?
Yeah, that's Crypto, right? But he's also got the hammer and sickle.
Yeah, I guess that's just like a little thing that he
cool.
did once have him. Yeah, that's cool. So, back in Russia, there is a bat vigilante who, obviously, because of his parents being anti-Superman and then being shot for it by the police, he's basically like a political anarchist, like, I mean, terrorist to the communists, but...
He's Batman.
Yeah. He's causing havoc. He's doing stuff. If you, again, with how on the nose the Russian stuff is, he wears a big woolly hat on top of his mask. And also, I don't know how true this is, but the story I've heard is that they only ever call him, I don't even know if they call him the Batman.
Anarchy in Black, they call him.
They were going to call him Batmankov.
I mean, no words.
So Piotr, who obviously shot Bruce Wayne's parents, I think his name is still... Actually, I don't know if they ever say that his name's Bruce Wayne. I'm not too sure. Piotr is still the head of police and he can't catch Batman. He gets close on this occasion, but Piotr's in the car with his driver and they're going just on a bridge. And Piotr's driver... just drives him off the bridge into some water. It's after this, chase thing. They almost catch him. You get a little bit of Superman arguing with Pyotr. You get... That's Wonder Woman's different, communist costume, which, again, I really like the grey and red stuff. It looks really cool. I'm glad they did some changes. You get some Lois Lane stuff. Some more Lex Luthor just being annoying. So... when his driver drives him off the bridge, he gets pulled into this underground tunnel, and there's the Batcave, or the Russian version of it, and where Batman is waiting for him. And Batman says, I heard that you wish to speak with me, and Piotr says he has a proposition for him from the CIA and Lex Luthor. And they want Batman to kill Superman with some new info that they've gained from Superman's rocket. And Batman's like, well, okay, sure, but after I kill him, I'm coming for you next, because you're the guy that I really want to kill. And Piotr is just a generic, not very nice character.
You mean you can try?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's I can't remember what the celebration is. Some sort of celebration for Superman.
It's his birthday.
Is it his birthday? Okay, there you go. Huge bat firework in the sky goes off. I guess that's the equivalent of the bat signal, but obviously you can't set one up because they just take it down. They just jumped to Batman as kidnapped Wonder Woman. I don't know.
How? See, this is.
He tied her up with her lasso so she can't get out.
You're telling me Wonder Woman would lose to Batman?
Batmankov.
Batmankov. Sorry. Yeah, and this is communist Wonder Woman as well, so a lot weaker. Am I right?
Just not sustainable. So he sets a trap for Superman because the thing they figured out is the thing that Superman always gets beat by, which they figure out about how his power comes from the sun. And so if you hit him with red light, which is Krypton had a red sun, so it's to do with, that's why he isn't powerful when he's there. That's why he's so powerful on Earth. If you hit him with like red UV light, he loses all of his power. So they figured that out. Batman just absolutely wrecks him, and he chucks Superman into this bunker that he's built for him where he's going to keep him. And Superman tells Wonder Woman, like, it's the lights that are doing this. I need you to break your own lasso so that you can break the generator and get me out, which will really hurt her. But she's, like I said, she's just like, this whole comic, Wonder Woman's character is that she's just simping for Superman. That's like a whole thing. So she breaks the generator. She breaks her lasso, breaks the generator. Superman comes out. Do I tell you this now? Yeah. Superman, as the book goes on, becomes more and more like of a dictator. Like, starts to get crazier and crazier, more desperate. He does this thing. I don't know where this starts to become a thing, but it feels so out of nowhere. Every person that he defeats, he doesn't want to. I think they just thought it would be like dumb, and so they were like, it's kind of funny, it's like stupid. He like takes people, and he, at this point in time, he's reprogrammed Brainiac, so Brainiac is now like his head scientist, and then Brainiac like puts things in their brain and reprograms them to basically make them like Superman Cybermen.
Yeah, I did notice with some of the people
they have like a weird head thing, yeah. Yeah.
And then Batman mentions here that you're ridiculous Superman robots, which now you've mentioned it, yeah, that makes sense. But looking at that, I was like, Superman robots. That's funny.
So Batman swallows a bomb because obviously, like, he's like an anarchist terrorist guy. He wants to die a martyr. So he tells Superman that it was Piotr that betrayed him, and then he blows himself up. Yeah, the whole Superman Cybermen thing is weird. But obviously, with the help of Brainiac, Russia is doing like insanely well. Again, more countries are being converted to communism. The gap between the Russia and the US is becoming bigger. And when he looks back at Wonder Woman, she's now super old because she had to break her lasso, which takes a lot of power, but also I guess she was getting a lot of power from the lasso. I don't know why that causes her to age really fast.
Or it's all the damage that she sustained from the bomb as well, right?
I guess. But Superman is just like unfazed by it all. He's more annoyed that he's been betrayed. And so Wonder Woman goes back to Themyscira, and she just like hates Superman now because she's like dedicated her whole life to him. Lex Luthor, on the other hand, back in the US, he's getting a lot more power, and he learns that the US had their own alien crash.
I see that symbol. My favourite DC film.
So in the late 40s, they had a ship crash land, which they kept secret because they didn't know how to do anything with it. Obviously, Lex Luthor, being Lex Luthor, he sees it like straight away and is like, I wonder if you plug that ring into the lantern, maybe it's the ring that's powerful and not the lantern.
When I joked last week, which I'm pretty angry at now, did I name the only person from the Justice League that isn't in this? Because when you said Comrade, I joked about the Martian Martian, what's his name?
Martian Manhunter.
Martian Manhunter, and you went, no, he's not in it. So I thought, it's definitely not Justice League. But this space, you got everyone apart from Martian Manhunter, unless he's actually in it.
It seems like it's going that way, but
he's not Martian Manhunter.
There's no Martian Manhunter.
Jupiter Manhunter. Jupiter Woman Hunter.
There's no Flash. There's no Aquaman. I think Green Lantern is the last of them. Yeah. So, yeah. Lex figures out what the lantern is about, what the ring is about. They kept it, like I said, a secret for ages. So they're like, finally, we have a weapon against Superman. They give it to Hal Jordan, like, obviously, like in Green Lantern story, Hal Jordan finds the alien's spaceship and the alien gives it to him because the ring the Green Lantern ring needs someone with like really high will, and so it finds someone worthy, and so it finds Hal Jordan and he takes over. In this, Lex gives it to Hal Jordan because he's like he's a pilot in like Green Lantern comics as well, but in this he's like a war hero pilot who got captured by like and like was kept as an enemy prisoner for ages, and like he survived because of his will, sort of thing. So they're like, oh, he's worthy, yeah. So now they have a Green Lantern. Superman, like I said, is becoming more and more of a dictator, whilst on the other hand, Lex Luthor runs for president in the US, and he wins by a landslide. Like, it's not even close. So Lois Lane is now the First Lady. Lex, now he's in charge, starts turning things around. He basically just, like, now he's got the Green Lantern thing in his pocket. He's like, I'll dictate a little bit of time, literally like an hour out of my day trying to fix the economy, and he does it, kind of thing, like, because he's so smart. Superman at this point, even though he's like a dictator and he's getting a bit crazy, he refuses to convert countries by force. Like,
he won't invade them.
Yeah, he's like, you submit to us and say that you're ready to embrace communism. I'm not going to go and like destroy your cities to do it. So, because otherwise he would just invade the US, you know, which is basically at this point in the comic, now that we're at the third like issue, basically everywhere but the US is communist now in the world. Like, that's Pietov, he's been turned into a thing because Superman got to him.
And Wonder Woman's still alive.
Yeah, she's looking pretty old though.
Okay, alright.
Yeah. So, like I said, Hal Jordan gets the ring. I think you see that at the start of this. Oh, why didn't it go to...
Right to the end.
Oh, probably because I was still reading it. I'm just going to wait for you to get there so that I can see what it actually starts with.
Cuttable silence.
There you go.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like I said, like the propaganda poster like artwork is really, really cool. I mean, I like all the artwork, but yeah, those in particular, those like poster ones are so cool.
Right, okay.
So now you're seeing like how advanced like civilization is getting with Superman in control, and obviously Brainiac helping him. And like I said, Lex is kind of... That's Brainiac, by the way.
Oh, he looks funny now.
Yeah, he's funny. Brainiac's one of my favourite villains because he looks dumb and his plans are always dumb.
Is he... Oh, I like how he's got all his servants dressed as Batman as well.
Yeah.
That's really dumb.
I think that might be because when Batman obviously kills himself and becomes a martyr, you start to get like rebel groups that are against Superman, and they dress as Batman, like in, like, you know, as their symbol kind of thing. I think that might be why that is.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So you'll start to see like the Lex Luthor stuff. Yeah, there you go. That's Lex and Lois there.
So there's like a lot of years between each of these.
Yeah, a decent amount of time goes by, yeah.
Because Lois Lane's old there as well.
Yeah. More Lex and Lois stuff. That's Hal Jordan as Green Lantern. It just looks like a traditional pilot. This is them explaining why him when he got kidnapped and stuff like that. This is just Lois goes to visit Wonder Woman, and she's saying about how much she hates Superman now and how she wants to fight. This bit, which is what I was waiting for you to get to, that big green gross looking thing.
It's like a flea.
It's a bit of bacteria that got into the bottle of mini Stalingrad. And it destroys like half the city. And when Superman gets there and defeats it, they're like, "Where were you?" They're like, "You were supposed to check on us every 24 hours." And he's like, "I've been really busy." And they're just fuming at him. And obviously he feels really bad because he's neglected someone, and usually, you know, he's straight on it. And it just makes me laugh at how big it is for them. So Brainiac says to Superman about how the US are starting to get stronger now. They've got the Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, and the Amazons decide that they're going to fight on the US's side. So Brainiac's all big on numbers and probability and things like that. So he's like, well, things are getting less in our favour, so we should invade now. And Superman's like, no, I've come this far by winning an argument, not by winning a fight, sort of thing. He's like, I could have overtaken everything they had to offer in a day if I wanted to. So Brainiac says, well, if they attack now, only 6.5 million will die, and the war will last no more than 8 hours. But for every half hour that they wait, the variables double. And he says comrade at the end of it as well, just so you know he's a Russian alien. And then Lex Luthor crashes through the wall. And Superman's like, why are you here? Shouldn't you be preparing with Wonder Woman and the Green Lantern? Oh, the Green Lanterns, by the way, they're now the Green Lantern Marine Corps, because he duplicated the rings. I don't know how they did
How
that.
do you duplicate
Lex
the
Luthor,
rings?
big brain.
Oh, okay, alright, sorry.
There you go.
Right.
So Lex is like, I didn't come here to like trick you guys. I came here to beat you on my own terms in a battle of wits. And Brainiac just instantly like plugs these like machines into Lex Luthor. And Superman's like, what are you doing, Brainiac? You idiot. And Brainiac says, like, basically, we should have done this ages ago. And he goes on to say, I couldn't allow you to debate with someone with a far higher intelligence level than yourself. It would have been a death trap. And my calculations say he would have talked you into suicide within 14 minutes. Look at his silly face. I love Brainiac so much. So Superman, that's like the final hurdle for Superman. He's like, fine, we'll attack. You take the West Coast with your big silly ship. I'll take the East. I'll meet you in Washington and we'll take the White House together. Superman gets met by the Green Lantern Marine Corps. He absolutely destroys them.
It doesn't look close.
No, I mean, if this book does make Superman look insanely powerful. He then gets met by the Amazons. He absolutely destroys them as well. Then all of the rubbish villains, including like Doomsday and stuff. And he just destroys all of them as well. It just runs through them to get to the White House. When he gets to the White House, he sees Lois Lane, which obviously like he's seen a few times. So I don't know whether he like actually recognizes her. Well, she's First Lady, so he must do. And he's like, I'm gonna have to ask you to evacuate. I just don't want anyone to get hurt. And she's like, I'm not leaving. This is my home. And then when they're on the steps, she says, I'm afraid we have one last weapon. And you just have to read this letter in my inside pocket. So he uses his X-ray vision to read the letter, and he just instantly starts like welling up and crying. And then Lois then reads the letter that Lex wrote for him, and it says, why don't you just put the whole world in a bottle, Superman? And that's what breaks him. And Superman from that point just breaks down, and he's like, I'm just as bad as you now, Brainiac. I'm an alien that's trying to bully a less developed species. Turn off your big silly skull ship and let's just go home. Like, basically, like, this isn't natural. We shouldn't be interfering. They should be allowed to make their own mistakes. We're just aliens. We don't, whose right is it, kind of thing. And Brainiac's just like, nah, I can't do that. He just shoots Superman with lasers. Because Brainiac's too big brain. And he's like, did you really think you could reprogram a level 12 intelligence being? And he's like, you've been under my control the whole time. Because, I just love Brainiac. So, Brainiac says to Superman, you realise that you and I are the same kind of creatures. So, like, don't die calling me a monster when you were trying to do the same thing I'm trying to do. I'm just doing it right. Brainiac's ship then starts shutting down, and Lex Luthor's inside of it because Lex Luthor's too big brain. So even though he got stabbed and Brainiac's computers like took control of him, he like rewired it to shut it down from the inside. There's a lot of big brain, no explanation needed kind of stuff here.
Just got a yes, nod your head.
Yeah. So because he starts disabling it, Superman smashes right through it to stop Brainiac. Obviously, the ship has a big self-destruct system, and Brainiac's ship is powered by 6 mini black holes. So, yeah, there's that. So,
why didn't this go off before, by the way?
What do you mean?
Why didn't his ship explode when he?
Because Brainiac is like, Brainiac's like a Bond villain.
He's like 5 steps ahead.
It's like a minute timer. So, like, you know, like, yeah, if it would make way more sense if he could just self-destruct it and kill everybody. But no, it has to have like a minute countdown on a big screen because he's so smart. So Lex asks Superman what he's going to do, and Superman just instantly flies the ship outside of the Earth's orbit. And when he gets far enough away, he says, "Look, Lex, I know you're not going to hear this for a while, or you won't even see the explosion until the light reaches you, but I have one thing to say before I go. Well played, old friend," kind of thing. So he kind of like references Lex in that way. And then the rest of Superman Red Son is like the aftermath, which, you know, usually like what Old Man Logan, we literally got, he butchers the Hulk family, leaves with the Hulk baby, the end. This they give like an actual like full conclusion to, which I think it will be really divisive as to whether this ruins the book entirely for you or whether it adds to how dumb it is. I like it, but it is very dumb. So the aftermath. Superman's gone. Doesn't come back. You see him later on walking around Metropolis as Clark Kent, like full Clark Kent disguise. Would he be able to shake a Russian accent? No way if he was born in the Ukraine in like 1938 and lived there for like 50, 60 years.
Well, he's an alien, remember? So he might be able to just pick up the American accent real fast.
Yeah, maybe.
Depends what part of America, because you could have like...
I don't know where Metropolis is meant to be. I think it's meant to be like New York.
Okay, good. As long as it's not like a Texan Superman.
Oh god, no. So Lex stays on as president. Russia falls into chaos, like absolute anarchy on the streets, but the like Batman anarchist group start to kind of police the streets and get things back together. And then Lex takes over Russia's economy as well and starts turning it around. Moscow signs up to be part of a global United States. This is like fast. It just tells you what's happening. With the world all united and with Lex as kind of the leader, cancer, diabetes, all inherited illnesses and blindness are all gone. He manages to solve them all. Now that he doesn't have to deal with Superman and he can actually deal with real world issues, he's just ticking them off.
Solve blindness.
There's a pill which means you don't have to sleep anymore. So productivity increases like insanely, development increases like insanely. By his 75th birthday, Lex has removed all conventional politics, and there's now a one world government which is composed of artists, writers, philosophers, and scientists.
Alright.
By 120, again, this is where the book it gets silly, but I like it. By 120, the entire solar system is colonized. By the age he's 120, obviously. He's colonized the entire solar system, and the average man can now live up to 800 years.
Okay.
In the cusp of the 4th millennium, Luthor is finally on his deathbed, and when asked what his greatest achievement was, he of course says that it was defeating the alien. Like, he still doesn't care that he's helped humanity. Like, his obsession is still beating Superman. Metropolis is renamed Luxor after he dies. Like I said, you see Superman in the coat and glasses kind of walking around. And mankind evolves to be the most advanced species in the known universe over time, led by a lineage of Luthors. So it starts to list Lex's descendants, and they start to replace their last name with just an L. So you get Jordan L, Alex L. Like in the future, I guess there's just no need for surnames. I don't know. But they all went on to do big things. Like it says about how one of them was the first man to step foot in the afterlife. And then it lists Lex's grandson to the power 50. So this is going way far. Who is a young man named Jor-El, who accomplished more than Lex himself, it says. He's worried about a growing red sun that has dimmed his powers, and no one will listen to him. He worries for his newborn son that he's got, and he says about, like, I don't want my son to suffer for being born into a world that has nothing left to conquer. Like, we're so advanced now. So he says, I remember being told stories of, like, my, you know, like, ancestors, and how people, like, are... Back then, way, way back, the sun used to be yellow, and how there were beings that were incredibly powerful instead of now where everything is really mundane because everyone lives forever kind of thing. Like everyone doesn't have illness. So he kind of wants his son to experience that. So he sends his newborn son back in time and says that when you get there, you will be strong, fast, virtually indestructible. So he sends his son, Kal-El, back in time to the Ukraine in 1938. I don't know if you know, but Kal-El is Superman's actual name.
So then...
That's the end of the book.
So the end of the book is basically he's Lex's...
Loop. Yeah.
50th lineage.
Yeah. It was a real wacko at the end, doesn't it? Here's my... Whilst I'm letting you digest that, when I read the book, and it got to the bit where they changed the Luthor name to just L, which Superman is from the House of L. I was like, okay, I know where this is going. But I thought what it was going to do was that when you get to the end of the book, he sends his son Kal-El back in time, and he lands in Kansas, and he becomes the Superman that we actually know. And so it's like not really an Elseworlds because it's like time repeats itself, but the Superman that we know is actually the descendant of a Lex Luthor descendant who sent his son back in time. I thought that would be what it was, and not just the loop starts again.
I guess it's easier just the loop starts again though, right?
I know, but I feel like it's cooler to have like, oh, you thought this was Superman but in an alternate timeline, but it's not. It's actually like a prequel to Superman. Like, don't get me wrong, it would still need to be an Elseworlds, because if you made that continuity, it would be so confusing.
How would you...
Like, what? Why is there two Wonder Womans? Like, how? Like, they send him back in time, but then like, are there still people? Yeah, it would just get so confusing. It would get so confusing. Like, you'd be like, Batman's dead. Like, he blew himself up in Russia. Like, what's going on? But yeah, I feel like the ending is like the biggest talking point. Before we talk about the ending, what did you think of it up to the point where Superman flies away?
I think up to it is a really cool kind of like comic book and all. Yeah, you know how much I just dislike Superman as a whole. But I guess it was nice to see that he's still the same Superman, even if he is a communist. And then obviously he was going to go a little bit evil.
Yeah.
Someone with massive amounts of power, right? So, but yeah, it was really cool seeing it switch, and then obviously Lex Luthor do the "No, you."
Yeah.
And then hit him with a Brainiac, and then Brainiac. Wow. Now I've met Brainiac. I like Brainiac.
Oh, Brainiac's silly.
Funny looking, says funny things.
Yeah.
Says comrade.
I don't know why he says comrade. Is that a thing? Do alien androids pick up on dialect?
Well, my thinking is, if he did rewire Brainiac, why is Superman specifically rewired and gone, you need to call people comrade?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a must. That's probably the first thing he did. He was like, I need you to not be evil. He probably forgot about that. He was like, fuck.
Yeah. I
was focused on the comrade thing.
I thought him to be Russian and not anything else. Yeah, I love Brainiac. He's so dumb as a character.
It's also nice seeing a different kind of Lex, because obviously you always see him as a bad guy, and this guy, he's kind of, I wouldn't say he's a good guy, but I mean morally he's not a good guy, but
no.
From like a standpoint where he's the quote unquote good guy, it's quite cool to see.
I like that it like reframes them, but their characters don't change too much. Obviously, apart from the fact that Superman goes crazy a little bit, like, yeah, he does go crazy. He does try and invade the US. That's pretty crazy.
He also kills Green Lantern.
I don't know if he actually kills anyone. He just beats them all up and gets to the White House.
There's a picture of one of the Green Marines, and his entire head down to his heart is just gone.
Oh.
When he punches him. So, unless he didn't need that.
No, he'll be fine. He's got will.
And then the Amazonian, there's one where there's one get lasered in half, and you're like, how do you stitch it back together?
Yeah. I love, like, that they defeat Superman because Brainiac made a mistake and Superman feels bad for it.
Yeah.
The poor people of Stalingrad who are stuck being miniatures for their whole lives.
So how did Superman go small?
No, he just like has like a hologram projector. I guess he made a really small hologram projector and put it in the thing. I don't know.
Look, it's a really small Superman.
Yeah, because when you see him, yeah, he's like their size. But then then the next panel is like it. You see like like a little hologram filter thing, and then he's back to being.
That's pretty funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also, if that happened and Superman wasn't around and it was still Brainiac, would Brainiac just lose that city?
That's a very good question.
There's no way those jars are that bad unless Superman.
I think the whole point is that Superman was just doing so much that he forgot about someone. Which, considering like when you're at the start of the book, and he's like, that's all he cares about is like he'll hear like that he'll just know that a train has gone off the rails somewhere really really far away, and he'll fly to it and stop that, and that's like all he does all day is just solve people's issues.
Yeah.
It's like he forgot about a whole city. I guess Brainiac is like that's his whole thing, is he wants to capture these like mini civilizations that he wouldn't let it happen. And also, do you get bacteria on a robot alien's spaceship? I don't know.
I guess not.
I guess not, right? It sounds weird, but I guess not.
Is that space bacteria? There must be space bacteria, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Brainiac's so smart. He must have worked out a way around it.
He's
antiseptic.
Around this time, they didn't know about hand sanitizer or stuff like that. So that's the problem with Brainiac. He's always squirting. Sorry, comrade. Gotta stay clean.
Yeah. And then the ending.
It's I don't think they needed to do the bit where obviously he's like, oh, I want my son to have something exciting. I'm just going to send him off and say, have fun. I don't think that bit was needed. But the bits before was like a nice kind of ending kind of thing. Just being like, oh, look, humanity's really, really good.
Yeah. I guess it's supposed to just like...
And then also to show the red sun, it's like, right, there's a reason why humanity's okay. Because obviously red sun gives a lot of strong people powers.
Yeah. I like that it goes really in on Lex Luthor being like Lex Luthor in Superman movies is always really underwhelming. Like, you're like, he's like smart, I guess, and evil.
What's the one where he makes the Kryptonite Island?
I think that's the Kevin Spacey one.
Yeah.
Superman Returns.
That sucks.
Yeah, he builds a Kryptonite
Island. I don't
Island.
mind the Jesse Eisenberg one.
Yeah, I think that's.
Was that Man of Steel?
No, he was in Batman v Superman. He wasn't in Man of Steel.
Batman vs Superman.
Yeah, and he was in Justice League for like a little bit.
Man of Steel again?
Man of Steel was like the first one where you had Michael Shannon as General Zod.
Oh
Yeah. With no Lex in that one, which is weird.
Always forget about Man of Steel. Very forgettable movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, really liked it. Would recommend giving it a little bit of a read to others, to be honest. Makes Superman douchey, but like purposely douchey instead of just being a yes man.
Yeah, it's really fun. That's my favourite thing about it. Like, just reading it, you're like, okay, yeah, there's some cool ideas in here, like theme-wise, but also it doesn't take itself like super serious. There's a lot of dumb stuff.
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, there's the things that aren't explained at all, and you just have to go, all right.
Yeah, that's what I like about the Elseworld stuff, though, because when that happens in regular comics, you're like, that's lazy. Whereas in this, you're like, well, yes.
I guess that little thing at the top right just goes, oh, okay. I just have to let stuff go.
Yeah, you just like, the whole point is like, don't worry about like what makes sense.
It's like watching some Marvel films, isn't it? Where you kind of go, this probably isn't going to make sense.
Yeah.
Multiverse of Madness, for example.
Yeah.
A lot of that just doesn't work. But, It's the multiverse of madness.
Hey, what are you gonna do? You know,
It's crazy.
Who knows how it works, man?
Oh.
Yeah. I was gonna do. You know when we did House of M?
Yeah.
Before we did House of M, I gave you the option of what we were going to do. And it was going to be an
Spider-Man
event or a
comic.
Spider-Man book. So we're going to do a Spider-Man book next. I'm going to give you the same clue that I gave you last time. You know when I made you pick between that and House of M?
Yeah.
I was like, I wasn't thinking very, very clearly. And I can remember a page in particular where there's a guy in a room filled with spiders. But that came out as, my clue is there's loads of spiders in it, and you just went, in a Spider-Man book. I was like, bruh. Yeah,
I mean, yeah. A little bit dumb.
obvious. Okay, better clue. Who is your favourite Spider-Man villain?
Who is my favourite Spider? It's Mysterio.
Who's your second favourite Spider-Man villain? This could go on for a while. You'll definitely know him.
Sandman.
Third favourite Spider-Man villain.
Goblin.
Fourth?
4. Is it? Oh, no. I changed my mind. Yeah, my favourite's Electro, but the comic book
I knew
Electro.
you were going to say. I was waiting for you to get to Electro. It's not Electro, but I was waiting for you to say
Why would you
Electro.
purposely say no to that? You just baited me to tell everyone that my favourite's Electro. A comic book Electro looks dumb.
Yeah, he does. Alright, I'll give you a fifth. Who's your fifth favourite Spider-Man villain? Rhino.
Because there's nothing.
Yikes.
Rhino is like the dumbest villain ever.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
in a big Rhino
at least the
suit.
clue that I can give is that I feel like this comic is like one of the best Spider-Man stories out there.
Shocker.
No, it's not Shocker. I love Shocker though. He's great.
He's dumb.
Yeah, he is dumb. It's just got electric gloves.
When I think about it, it's not very.
But despite the fact that the main villain is not in your top 5 Spider-Man villains or most people's, I reckon people who have read this book, he would be in their top 5.
Lizard.
That's how good the book. Oh, it's not Lizard. I love Lizard though.
Lizard
What's his whole plan? He tried to turn people into lizards.
It's so dumb.
He out here wearing a lab coat. What's he doing?
Why are you wearing a lab coat? You're a lizard.
What use do you have for a lab coat?
He's not wearing anything.
You
else
live in
either.
a sewer.
He's not wearing.
No, he usually wears trousers.
No, sometimes he wears glasses as well. Which again, I don't know why a lizard needs glasses.
Like Little Red Riding Hood. I so good.
It's
Oh,
a big
the
bad
lizard.
wolf, man.
The lizard's brilliant.